Slid down that hill just as I hit record. So I'll give you a few seconds. Can you tell where I was? That's the idea. Leave no trace. It's right there. That's my burn spot. Hey folks, here's a quick tech tip that I learned on Facebook this week of all places. But we all use, in some form or another, a bodkin or other fine point item, whether it's for spreading silicone or super glue, or even dabbing paint into a small spot on something. And then you're always left with the gunk on the actual shaft of the bodkin. So I picked this tip up on Facebook, and I can't take any credit, but you only need two things. So let's get those two things. There you go. That's all we need. A pill bottle, big enough for the depth of your bodkin, or whatever you want to call it. I call it a bodkin. Pick that up from fly tying. And some steel wool. And that's all we need. So, the quickest way to do this is, all we're going to do is we're going to come up to the center of our cap. Most of them have a little dimple from the molding process. And then we're just going to put a little hole. Right there. So then we're going to take the cap off. Now you can see the hole in there. We're going to take a little bit of steel wool. That's a good question. What's the best way to put that in there without making a complete mess of it? I want it to go down across the grain rather than with. If you look at steel wool, it actually has a grain running this way. And I want to go somewhat at an angle through there to get the most amount of friction I can get on the bodkin to clean it off. Steel wool's some tough stuff if you ever go to take it apart. Anybody remember setting steel wool on fire with batteries in school? I think my dad showed me that trick at home one time with a 9-volt, and I just kept burning up steel wool until I wound up getting my butt beat. So yeah, that's it. Steel wool's now in the container. I got a little bit of a gap, but that's fine. Drive it down in there a few times, clean it off. That's it. Super simple. All right, folks, we're back. It's Tech Tuesday. It's actually Saturday night. But I went and I punched in all my holes, my marks. And, whoa, those two don't look right. Well, close enough. So this will be the first trial run. So I have 8 on this side that will be, well, actually 12.5 millimeter. Turns out I don't have a standard step bit. I don't know what happened to it. I know I have them, but anyway. So there's going to be 8 12.7 millimeter or 12.5 millimeter holes around the bottom of that one, so 1/2 inch. The can itself, 8 1/2 inch around the bottom, 16 1/4 inch or 6.3 whatever millimeter it came out to be, 3.5, sorry, and then random holes on the bottom. I'm going to try and make them neater when I drill them, but I went through and used a pressure hole punch. It's a self-set. It's just a spring-loaded punch to get my holes started. I cheated and put some little black lines on the bit, and I'm going to go punch some holes. Okay, so I got all of my holes drilled now. It's not the prettiest job. I think if I started doing a bunch of these, I would definitely jig this to make it come out neater. So like there's less pressure on the can when you're trying to puncture through because you put little dents in it. You know, just little stuff like that annoys me. Stuck on my finger here. So what I did, I have a row on the, so this is the soup can. On the bottom, I have that row of 8. It's supposed to be 1/2 inch. I'm pretty damn close, but metric. Slightly dented. On the bottom, I put 8, 16, 18 1/4 inch holes. It started out as a pattern, but the bit kind of wandered on me, so I just said the hell with it because it's just a test. And the top, I have 16 1/4 inch holes all the way around. You can probably see my marks around it to get my reference points. Now I'm going to go cut the bottom out of this. Okay, so while I was cutting this can, the thought came up, you could do this better with the individual bits, or go one size smaller and break through the final one with a conventional bit. I don't know. Like I said, it's not that important. If you haven't seen this, it's a deburring tool. So I gotta get over my trash can here. Yeah, I didn't see that at first. This one kind of tore a little bit. Let me get that where you can see the tear. Right in there on that edge. But that's all right. This is a prototype. Let's see. So the basic gist of it now is our can pops down in there. Actually, that's seated all the way. When I built one of these years ago, I had to hammer the hell out of that thing. I went ahead and dremeled them off inside. They're a little sharp, but not too bad. They're serviceable. Might take a piece of emery cloth to them just to give them a little more loving. Cleaned up the holes a little bit. Again, I'll figure out a better way to drill it. If I was to make enough of them, I would make a jig to keep everything straight. Did the same thing with the top of the actual burn chamber. Went around, smoothed those out a little bit. Some still got some drag in them, but it's all right. The edge is still a little sharp. Okay, that'll work. I am a big fan of removing as many sharp edges as possible because I am the guy that can always find them. Oh, there it is down here. I'm always the guy that can find a sharp edge. And I find it in the worst possible way, typically. Like right there. I just found a sharp edge. That's funny. There's only one, oh, 2. I was going to say. That's a little high, but it's not sharp. So yeah, I think we're ready to burn. Maybe we'll go for a walk tomorrow and burn it. All right, so here we are, loaded up. I got about half a load in there just to, I don't want to burn it too long because I don't want to be stuck out here an hour. Just playing around with the test burn. All right, so first burn, progressing pretty good. Don't quite have gasification yet, but I didn't expect that on the very first fire up because there's so much, the lacquer and everything inside the paint cans have to burn off first. So it has other fuels before gasification. So I see some starting to come in there. Let's give it a little bit and see what happens. All right, so we're about 6 minutes in. Got some gasification happening. But again, it's still a very bright red flame, which means it's still burning the lacquer inside of the can walls, or whatever that is they seal the paint can with. But yeah, it's looking pretty good so far. The only smoke is actually from the finish in the can. You smell it, it doesn't even smell like wood smoke. Definitely gasification now. Sweet. So because this was the first burn, I only filled it half height and half width, so I laid it on its side and just filled it up about halfway, and the sticks are only half the depth of the stove because I knew I had to burn out all of the finish inside the can. So yeah, it's looking pretty good already. Got nice hot embers down in the bottom, but again, that's literally only a quarter of the can is full. Half the width and half the height, just so we can do this preliminary burn. You may have noticed on the time lapse I was feeding it a lot of fuel, and we're starting to come back up now. I was trying to do an experiment. I think I have too much oxygen flow in the bottom, so we're getting incomplete combustion, because you'll notice the lack of blue flame. Although the fuel is burning the wood is burning completely. There's a nice bed of hot embers down there. But yeah, I'm not quite getting a good combustion of the gases. So I'm thinking it might have too much oxygen via the holes down at the bottom, which is easily solved. So you can see I put out my titanium windscreen, and now we have a much more even flame. Still a little on the orange side, but we may still be burning some paint from inside the can. Some of that finish inside. So let's give it a little bit and see what it does. I'm hoping this will show up on camera. You'll see smoke right now because I just refueled it. Once it comes to temp and you get a good solid combustion, the smoke will go away. And the smell of the wood fire also goes away. So these are very clean burning. So there you go. Now the smoke, for the most part, is stopped, except for a few pieces that are still lighting. But there you go. Just to show you, that's the end of a 45-minute burn. You can't argue with full and complete combustion. Very clean. So yeah, all in all, a success. So, just a couple little notes. I have a waterproof bag, just a roll top. It's a good idea if you're using wood stoves to have something like this. You're not worried about getting the stove wet, but it gives you a way to contain any additional ash and smoke and wood fire smells from leaving the can and getting on your camping gear or your hiking gear, whatever you want to say. So there you go. Now I gotta clean this up and make it look like I wasn't here, and we're out of here. So just as another, I don't know, just a little tip, I had my rock right here like this. What I did is right next to it I dug a little pit. I don't know, it's about an inch deep maybe. Of course I put some dirt back in there, but yeah, probably about an inch deep or so. And then I brought the stove off the edge of the rock down over that pit. Tapped it loose with a stick just to make sure everything fell in that pit. And then you pour some water in it, or human water, if you want to look at it that way. And that way you make sure all of your ashes are out. So I'll give you a few seconds. Can you tell where I was? That's the idea. Leave no trace. Right there. That's my burn spot. All right, folks, that's it from today, or for today, from the secret hammock spot. Wood gas stove. That was a blast. I think I got maybe $6 in it when you count the paint can, the Progresso soup, and the can of tuna. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Killed a little bit of time. I'll call it a moderate success. we'll see on the next version of it. But yeah. Anyway, that's it for today, guys. Be good, be well, wear a mask if you have to, stay smart, be strong, stay mighty, and I'll see you guys on Thursday. Bye-bye.